Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this regular meeting of the Thompson-Nicola Regional District for Thursday, January 23rd, 2025. TNRD acknowledges that we connect with many First Nations communities across our vast regional district. Today, we are located on the Kamloops to Secwepemc territory, situated within the unceded traditional ancestral lands of the Secwepemc Nation. The TNRD appreciates the partnership that we have with Kamloops to Secwepemc and respect the territory and land on which we gather today. Chair's announcements. We welcome alternate director Beppel. I did see her. There she is. Hello, alternate director Beppel, and welcome. We have a couple of directors who need to leave early if the meeting goes long enough. So if people get up and leave, it could be a sign that I'm talking too much. It could be they have to go to a committee meeting. I'll let you decide. Library update. The Thompson-Nicola Regional Library is thrilled to announce the relaunch of its popular kits and devices under a new name, the Library of Things. Featuring an expanded collection, this unique service offers everything from board games and musical instruments to home equipment and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math activities, all of which are available to borrow for free with just a library card. You can explore the full collection and discover something new at tnrl.ca/library of things, or refer to your board folder for additional information. Oh, Renee is giving me that stare. We have a new old familiar face here. We have alternate director Renee Elliott here. For Director Grenier, needs no introduction and is certainly very familiar with the Thompson-Nicola Regional District. So always good to see you back, Renee. Film Commission update. So the Thompson-Nicola Film Commission is very excited to unveil its interactive movie locations map. This new digital tool showcases the stunning landscapes and iconic filming locations featured in productions that were filmed across the entire Thompson-Nicola Regional District. Destination BC supported and funded this project, highlighting the region's rich cinematic history and tourism potential. By integrating data from the TNFC's past productions database, the map provides details about each production that was filmed in the TNRD, including whether locations are accessible to the public, always an important thing to bear in mind, where you can watch the films, shows, music videos, or commercials, and even if they can be borrowed through the TNRD library system. This user-friendly feature makes it easy for film enthusiasts, tourists, and locals to connect with the region's vibrant film history. If you do use the map and you notice that there is a film or television show or commercial that is missing, they are happy to add the details to the map to keep improving and expanding it. Solid waste update. The TNRD has recently signed onto the thermostat recovery program at all full-service eco depots, which includes Clearwater, Clinton, Heffley Creek, Logan Lake, Lewis Creek, Lower Nicola, Lytton, 70 Miles, South Thompson, Boston Flats, and Blue River. The program accepts electronic thermostats, smart thermostats, and intact mercury-containing thermostats. Note the intact there. Although small in size, it is important to recycle these items to keep the hazardous materials contained in them out of our landfills. Upcoming meetings and events, February 6th to 7th, we have the UBCM Electoral Area Directors Forum in Richmond. On the 19th of February, we have the Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Parcel Tax Roll Review Panel. On the 20th of February, we have the inaugural Hospital District Board meeting of the year. And also on the 20th, a regular board meeting. On the 21st, Committee of the Whole meeting and Finance Committee. And today in your blue folders, you will find regular mail and literature from Mr. Vern Short, who is shortly to present. And one more housekeeping note: in the event that the fire alarm sounds, leave by the safest exit doors, either at the rear of the room or the main entrance, go down the staircase, exit the building, and assemble in the staff car parking lot at the rear of the Paramount Theatre across the street on 5th. Please do not run or use the elevators, and if you have issues with mobility, please advise the corporate officer. All right, so we have, are there any additions to deletions from the agenda? No. Then we have the minutes of the regular board meeting. Special, move one, go ahead. That's moved. Director Middleton has moved number one. Director O'Reilly has seconded that. Are there any errors or omissions? Director O'Toole? No, okay. All in favor? Director Kershaw and Director Hall online, I do have to have your verbal vote, either yay or nay.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay. All right, thank you very much. That is passed. Now we have a second recommendation.
The recommendation.
Director O'Reilly, seconded by Director O'Toole. Thank you. Are there any errors or omissions? All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Opposed? That is carried. And now we move on to delegations. We have a presentation from Mr. Vern Short, Vice President of the White Cane Club and Director and Public Relations, Canadian Council of the Blind BC Yukon Division, here to talk to us about the club and National White Cane Week. Over to you, Mr. Short.
Good afternoon, Chair Barbara Roden and Vice Chair Robin Smith. Thank you. Good afternoon to the members of the TNRD Board of Directors body. Good afternoon. Can you see me? I can. Now, this is not, Melvin, this is not hide and seek. Merlin, pardon me. I cannot see your faces from here. And thank you for allowing me to come back again. The first year was kind of a hit and miss, but this year I'd like to start with a joke, if I may. Did you hear about the blind kitchen cabinet installer?
No?
Well, he was arrested and charged for counterfeiting. You're just getting it? Okay. Before I get deeply further into the presentation, I'd like to acknowledge two significant milestones reached in 2025. The first one is that the BC Yukon Division of the Canadian Council of the Blind celebrates and marks 80 years of existence in British Columbia. Now, the Canadian Council of the Blind BC Yukon Division profuses and we act upon as the voice of the blind in British Columbia, the blind, the deaf, blind, and partially sighted. Now, according to Canadian statistics that were taken in 2017, British Columbia has 252,000 residents living with lost vision or blindness day to day. 252,000, and I'm afraid that number is only rising each day. So with that in mind, the second significant event to be marked this year is the asking by Helen Keller. How many know the story of Helen Keller? Now, Helen Keller is a remarkable lady in her own right, but in 1925, at the International Convention of the Lions Clubs in Cedar Point, Ohio. She asked the Lions at that point to become Knights of the Blind, for them to lead the crusade against darkness. And this year, 2025, marks the 100th anniversary. Graciously, sorry for the slurring, graciously, the TNRD libraries are going to put up a display of Helen Keller and her body of work and her actual speech that she made in 1925. Helen Keller went on to write 14 books, traveled to 39 countries, and wrote many, many speeches. Helen Keller was also responsible for opening up schools for the blind across North America. I feel very passionate about her and her body of work. Helen Keller had passed away in 1968 at the age of 87. Through her career and life, she had met many dignitaries of the world. Excuse me for the emotion. So in remembering and marking the 100th anniversary of Helen Keller is very near and dear to my heart, and it should be for our communities in the regional district. Now, did everybody get a package from me? I'm wanting to keep it brief, and I touched on the two significant events. So today, January 23rd, I come before you to this great body to inform you, to inspire you, and to involve you. And today's topic is White Cane Week, which is celebrated yearly during the first full week of February the 2nd to the 8th. And why do we celebrate White Cane Week? Well, everybody knows that we promote education and raise awareness about blindness in our communities, such as Clearwater, Logan Lake, Ashcroft, and indeed Kamloops, and throughout BC. As I had mentioned, according to Canadian statistics, don't get me to say that twice, as on a survey of 2017, 252,000 residents in British Columbia live on a daily basis with lost vision or blindness. Yes. Why do we celebrate? Well, certainly to promote education and certainly to raise awareness. In promoting education, it's about wearing ski goggles, wearing safety equipment for your eyes, wearing facial masks, playing sports. It's about wearing goggles, using your hobby power tools. So also, which is very important, is get your eyes examined. For adults, they recommend every 2 years. for those with eye conditions such as glaucoma, diabetes, retinopathy, diabetic every year. We also, in the past as well, we've gone into elementary schools and informed children that, hey, yes, it's fun to throw snowballs, but what if that snowball contains rocks and other debris and you throw it at another child's face? What's the result? Merlin? Were you paying attention? What's the result? Right? I know. I'm going to get the gears on the accessibility meeting. I know. Yes. Thank you, sir. And most eye accidents and injuries are preventable. So what I'm suggesting today is take care of those eyes. You only have one pair of eyes. And of course, you know, on a daily basis, how important is your vision? And you know what? This concludes my presentation, and I'll be glad to take questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Short. And we do have Director Middleton who has her hand up. So I'll let Director Middleton from Kamloops, who's sitting directly in front of you to your left.
Good morning or afternoon, I guess now. Thank you very much for coming in. Just a question. I've attended twice before and I'd love to attend again. When is your bowling event during that week?
Okay, mark this down on your calendars. February the 7th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Falcon Lanes in Valley View. And there will be refreshments available for those hardworking bowlers. Dust your bowling shoes off.
Thank you very much.
So 11 till 2 on February 7th at Falcon Lanes in Valley View.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Anyone else have any questions? Yes, Alternate Director Beppel, who's on the far wall to your left.
Hi, Nancy.
Sorry, Nancy, your microphone went off.
Oh, the other side. Nice to see you, Vern, Nancy
you.
Beppel. There has been some concern about ophthalmologists. in Kamloops.
Ophthalmologist, yes.
Is there anything that you'd like to mention in terms of ophthalmologists in Kamloops?
Well, I've been nagging and working continuously with the MLAs, Ward Stamer and Peter Millibar. And they will be carrying this issue and concern for the not only the city of Kamloops, but the regional district as well, to the legislature when they go back February the 8th. So, and he's asked me to keep pestering him where it follows down the line. That's about all I can say.
And that's because there's a shortage, or what's the main concern that you have?
Yes, there is a real disposition where Kelowna has, I believe, 7 working ophthalmologists, and Kamloops has, you might say, 2.5, because Natalie Dowdy is also on maternity leave, but her focus is on pediatric ophthalmology. And for this size of the city and region, we should at least have 5 ophthalmologists. And within this body of directors, I would encourage that you engage and endorse with interior health to see the disproportionate. And when we've had, I know of 3 people that have had to travel to Kelowna in order to get ophthalmology surgeries. Why does a resident in Kamloops, why do we have to travel to Kelowna? I mean, I know Kelowna is a terrific city, but that patient has to pay everything out of pocket for gas, for meals, and for overnight accommodations. What's wrong with this picture? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? No,
I thought I saw one over here.
no.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Any questions for Mr. Short? Well,
One
thank you
f-
very much. Oh,
One,
Go.
one further comment, in the spring, the Kamloops White Cane Club, we feel will be sponsoring a walk with our local politicians to walk on the street and see what we have for obstacles, how the curbs, the way the curbs are cut now, they lead directly into the intersection rather than adjacent to each end of the crosswalk. So go home to your communities and have a look at those cut ramps to the sidewalk. They're great, and but the intention was great, but the way they're designed and cut now, they lead that person, whether it's in a wheelchair, a power chair, or with a white cane, it leads them into the middle of the intersection. And that's a high risk. And so, Madam Chair, that completes my presentation, and thank you for allowing me to come back.
well, thank you for wanting to come back and speak with us again, and thank you for letting us know about upcoming events. Please do let us know the date of that proposed walk around Kamloops, because I'm sure there are a number of people here who would be interested in accompanying you on that and seeing firsthand.
For sure, I will keep you in mind and keep you in tuned. We're certainly thinking spring anyways. Thank you
Okay.
for your time.
Give the snow a chance to melt. That's probably a good idea.
Of
Thank you
course.
very much, and you have yourself a good day, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we move on to item 7.1, zoning amendment bylaw number 2861. We do have 2 staff recommendations.
So move.
So moved, Director Houghton, seconded by Director Sarai. Does anyone have any comments or questions on the first recommendation? Director Houghton.
2 things, Madam Chair. I noticed we had one letter, not of protest, but of concern about a possible, when these 3 units get built, that their sight line may be blocked for future viewing. And I know TNRD doesn't have any control over what kind of houses we build, but I just want to make sure that the proponents, I know the planner is here from, and Mr. Zimmerman is on, I think on Zoom, but just to make sure that you look at your neighbors and make sure that you do everything you can to not do that. And the second thing, of course, when you start moving out into the country and developing houses and infilling like we're doing here or planning on doing here, is water supply. And we know what we've been through the last number of years. I don't think this is going to get any better in the future. Mr. Kraus, is once we get this approved, if this goes through today, what guarantees does the 3 lots have that there will be guaranteed water on it? And I know there is a 50 gallon per minute well on site there, but what in our regulations do we have control over when it comes to water?
Through the chair, yes. And so this property is unique in that the owner already has 3 water licenses that services from the South Thompson River. So their goal is to have the province apportion those to fit each new lot. There's also 2 existing wells on the property. So proof of water is something that's covered during subdivision, and it's under our subdivision servicing bylaw. And so they'll either have to confirm from the province that that water license has been divided for each new lot, or drill a well. If they're drilling a well, then it requires testing for quality and quantity, and an engineer has to certify that there won't be detrimental impact to neighbors. So that should be covered through that process.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? On the question, all those in favor? Online?
Yay.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? That is carried. We have a second recommendation.
So moved.
Director Smith, seconded by Director O'Reilly. Any discussion? On the question, all those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. Item 7.2, Black Pines Community Water System Security Issuing Bylaw. This is a housekeeping one. Director Morris, you're moving this recommendation?
Recommendation 1, please.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Director Thorpe. Any discussion on this? All right, on recommendation 1, all those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Recommendation 2. Director O'Toole, seconded by Director Tsao. Discussion? Call the question. All those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? Carried. And number 3. Director Thorpe, move it. Director Getz second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? Carried. 8.1, development application for a floodplain exemption on, oh, where's this? On the Bonaparte River anyway, up near Loon Lake, it looks like. We do have a recommendation. Director Thorpe, thank you. Director Stankey seconds that. Does anyone have any discussion on this question? All in the question, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? You're opposed, Director Elliott, alternate Director Elliott? Okay, alternate Director Elliott is opposed. Online?
Yay.
Thank you very much. That is carried. 8.2, we have a liquor license application for Lac Lejeune. Director O'Reilly moves that. Vice Chair Smith seconds that. Any discussion on this? We can all picture the resort because we were all there in August. All right. On the motion then, all those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? That is carried. All right, we move on to reports. 9.1.1, we have a report from CAO Hildebrand.
Thank you, Chair Roden, and good afternoon, Board of Directors. I've got a number of items I wanted to bring updates for. Firstly, I'm excited today to share our new legislative structure with the board. Leading the board and our team as the new corporate officer will be to my right, Marnie Jeremiah. Marnie has been with the organization for several years and well known by the board. Our deputy corporate officer will be Kara Wright. She's sitting behind me on my right, who has stepped up to take on this new responsibility from her role as the FOIPA lead. I'm very pleased that with this change, and look forward to this dynamic duo leading this very important department. As you all know, Amanda Ellison will be overseeing the larger division as the general manager, combining HR, IT, business strategy, and ledge services into the entire corporate services division. This structure change is both important from an efficiency standpoint and allows us to eliminate one of our senior management positions and reduce our FTEs and associated budgets. So that was a big change for our budget this year. And we do have a recommendation that I would like to maybe start with now before I finish my other updates.
All right, so we do have a recommendation that we appoint Marnie Jeremiah and Karen Nickerson Wright. Whoa, Director Smith. I am spoiled for choice here. Director Smith and Director Blackwell seconds that one. Any discussion beyond, it feels funny to say welcome, but welcome, I guess. Congratulations and look forward to working with you. I think it's going to be an awesome, the dream team. Any comments? All those in favor?
Yay.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. Continue, CAO Hildebrand.
Thank you. Secondly, I want to talk about the Regional Film Commission. I would like to acknowledge that Terry Hadwin has been voted in as president of the Regional Film Commission Association. The RFCA-BC was formed in 1996, and the purpose of the society are to cooperatively promote and facilitate the sustainability and growth of motion picture production in BC regions, act as coordinating body to support RFCA-BC cooperative and marketing initiatives, support communication between members and motion picture industry stakeholders, and also support training and professional development opportunities for members. So please join me in congratulating Terry on this great accomplishment. Look forward to her success. Thirdly, and another important topic is a budget update. So budget continues to be a focus and a challenge for the organization, and something that we continue to review and adjust. I'm happy that our process allows us an early look from the fall and provides us an opportunity to tweak those numbers and those changes going forward. Our ratepayers are always top of mind as we do our best to find efficiencies as we balance services with taxation from year to year. Staff have spent the last 4 weeks again going through the budget in detail with a focus on both electoral area reserve opportunities as directed by this board and other saving opportunities staff have found. We have also taken the time to look broader and utilize other tools as well as 2024 year-end results, which have allowed us to make some huge impacts to what we'll be recommending to the board. These changes will impact the entire organization, including municipalities and electoral area directors. The further use of reserves is not something that our staff are currently recommending. We will also be formally updating the board on a decision from the EA committee yesterday. Later in the agenda, we look forward to the board's feedback and direction based on these updates, and CFO Fox will be sharing those details in the agenda coming up. Number 4 was our annual report. Staff are well underway with creating the 2024 annual report. This document is a great tool for increasing public awareness and understanding about the regional district governance in the region itself. In our budget, of course, 2024 accomplishments will also be included. We're putting an increased focus on including metrics in this report that are easy to read and take in for readers, and also increased focus on clearly defining our service areas. Our communications team gathers information from all staff departments, and it's a great team effort. And like last year, we'll be having this finished in print form by the April board meeting. And then finally, for me, from an e-billing campaign update that I shared back in November, December, a quick update on the campaign that our finance and communications team did during the Canada Post strike. In the first half of December, we encouraged TNRD utility customers to sign up and receive their invoices by email instead of mail. We had 4 $25 prizes for customers who signed up in that time frame. Although we only had 24 new customers sign up, which may not sound like a lot, that's approximately 2.5% of our total utility customers. We had an additional 8 customers sign up for e-billing since the campaign ended using our simple online form. In the past, customers would have to call our finance team and go through a process of signing up for e-billing, which is now much more efficient. In total, 25% of our utility customers get their invoices electronically. However, about 75% pay their e-billing, so pay by e-billing. So we know that there's room for growth and encouraging people to sign up. It's cost effective, saves paper, and prevents us any billing delays in strikes in the future. So wanted to share that with the board as well. And I'd like the last 2 topics, a quick update from Mr. Kelly on both IBAR and SILGA resolutions.
Thank you, CAO Hildebrand, and good afternoon, directors. Excuse me. Two quick updates from me this afternoon. On January 10th, the TNRD officially signed our MOU with High Bar First Nation. This is the first agreement to be signed in 2025, but the third for the TNRD to sign in the last year. Our agreement with High Bar sets out to collaboratively work with High Bar First Nation to grow our regional partnerships. This is important because it aligns us strongly with the strategic plan for this term, continues to advance reconciliation and regional partnerships, and allows for joint advocacy efforts to really harness the power of a collective voice when we're connecting with provincial leaders. SILGA resolutions are due on February 21st. And resolutions must be approved by the board before they make it to SILGA and then to UBCM if they're approved at the SILGA convention. Directors were asked to provide resolutions to myself by January 15th, and I have received 3 resolutions that I've worked with 2 directors on, and those will be coming in a board report to you at the February board meeting. And that's it.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Kelly or for CEO Hildebrand? No? All right, thank you very much. All right, Corporate Officer Jeremiah, over to you for committees.
Good afternoon, directors. So we have our 2025, 2026 committee appointments for our chair appointed and external and advisory committees. So I'm just going to run through the appointment process. So all committees are appointed for a 2-year term ending in fall 2026. The board procedure bylaw outlines the 2 appointment processes. So we have number 1, the chair appointed committees, and those consist of all internal standing and select committees as well as Fraser Basin Council. The second one is our board appointed committees where we'll be discussing today and having an election. That will be for our advisory committees and external committees. So if the expression of interest that we received exceed the available positions, we will be having an election to determine who will be appointed. So up on the screen here, we have all of the chair appointed committees. These committees have been appointed by Chair Roden. We will send out a document outlining everybody's appointment after the meeting. And we have our board appointed committees. So everyone who has expressed interest has been listed on each slide for their respective committees. So for this membership, we do have 3 electoral area directors that are required. 4 have expressed interest. So what we can do is we will go in order of the individuals on the list here. If you would like to speak for 2 minutes. Director Graham?
Director Grimm?
Thank you. I'll be withdrawing my name from that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a word to, if I may, anyone who sees their name up there and is now having second thoughts or decides that they no longer are interested, if there are more people interested than there are spots, you are certainly able to do as Director Graham did and say, I'm no longer interested. But there is absolutely no pressure. If we will have an election if we have more names than we have spots, and look forward to hearing what everyone has to say. So that leaves us with Directors Houghton, Hayward, and Thorpe on the electoral area as the electoral area directors on the invasive plant management. So that one's good.
They are acclaimed.
They're acclaimed. Congratulations. You'll learn more about spotted knapweed than you ever wanted to know.
So now we will be moving to the Accessibility Advisory Committee where we have Directors Blackwell, Hayward, Director Smith, and Director Bass. We do require 2 for this membership.
I'm happy to withdraw as well.
And actually, considering there's now a director from the city of Kamloops is interested, I would withdraw for this because a lot of the conversation is around the city of Kamloops, and I think it's important that a director from there hears this.
So that would leave us with Director Hayward and Director Bass.
Correct.
Okay. They are acclaimed then.
Municipal Finance Authority, we require one director and one alternate. So the directors that have expressed interest are Director Ranta, Director Karpuk, and Director Thorpe, who has also expressed interest as an alternate as well. Okay, so what we will do is we will proceed with the election. We will give the membership an ability to speak for 2 minutes. And then we will pass out the ballots to determine who the individuals are elected. Thank you.
So are we going to go alphabetical order or the order that they're on the
We
list?
can go in order of the list. So Director Ranta, if you would like to speak.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Prior to 1970, when the Municipal Finance Authority was established, municipalities and regional districts had to go to banks to borrow money, and the interest rates were very high. So municipalities got together and formed the Municipal Finance Authority in 1970, and it's been going strong ever since. And the interest rates that are charged by municipal finance are significantly lower than what the banks used to charge. Presently, there are 39 members of the Board of Directors, and I served as a member of the Board of Directors from 2012 to 2018. For 7 years, I was on the Board of Directors, and for 5 of those years, I was elected as a trustee of the Municipal Finance Authority. The Board of Directors meets twice a year, and you know, at the annual meeting and whatnot, which is interesting, but you're not really engaged in the management of the organization. As a trustee, you have several more meetings, and you're involved in the day-to-day management of the organization. So I'm pleased to have been a trustee for many years in my tenure on the Municipal Finance Authority. I would really appreciate your support to represent the TNRD on the Municipal Finance Authority. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Ranta. Director Karpuk, would you like to speak?
Thank you for this opportunity. I guess myself, I do not have the experience that my esteemed colleague to my behind here, Mr. Ranta, Mayor Ranta has. My interest is just in the fact that I, as a working professional, have a limited amount of time that I can give, but I would like to give 100% to the 2 things that I really have an interest in. One is the Municipal Finance Authority in representing all of the constituent members of the TNRD, but also as a member coming from Kamloops, which has really got a fairly large ask coming forward, and having I guess a voice at that table to understand how we can work jointly to achieve the goals that the City of Kamloops, being a member of this group, and any other member of this TNRD have. In the number of frequencies of meetings, that's really the appeal to me. It's sort of something I think I can fit into my lifestyle and still give it 100%. But it also comes back to, as I got into this part of my life in running for elected office, was to learn new things, to experience new opportunities and grow as a person, but also be better as an elected official. And I think this is an opportunity I would welcome, and the support from my peers in this room to also represent all of you and share that back as a representative of this board. So I thank you. If you're willing to share your vote, I'd be happy to have it. Thank you.
And Director Thorpe, would you like to speak?
Thank you. So for the last 2 years, I have been the alternate director for the Municipal Finance Authority. Finance is my background. I was a financial planner in my previous life before I ended up here. I understand mutual funds. I held a mutual fund license. I understand lending. I understand various investments, both short-term and long-term. I understand risk and return. In the first couple of months that I sat on the board for the TNRD, Director O'Reilly, who was then on the Municipal Finance Authority, couldn't attend one of the meetings. And this was in the days when we were still drinking from the fire hose, so to speak. We'd only been in office a couple of months. And I went down to Victoria, and all of a sudden it was fantastic because I spoke their language. I understood what they were talking about. And I think I have a lot to offer because I do understand this and I want to help everybody. That's my role. That's why I'm in politics, is I want to help people and I want to make things better. So I would really welcome your support and thank you. Thank you for the consideration.
We will proceed with distributing the ballots and then determine who will be appointed.
I just have a quick process question. Because Director Thorpe is the only one currently as an option for alternate, what happens if Director Thorpe is chosen as the director representative?
We will proceed to see if one of the other candidates would like to become the alternate. If both of them do, we will continue with another election.
So just another procedure question. Right now, we have spaces to fill out for the director and the alternate. Do we vote for the alternate at this point? We're
That was
simply
wishful
voting.
thinking. No, we have plenty of ballots, so we can proceed with the,
Okay, so we just
Separate
vote for
election.
director right
Yeah.
now.
thank you. We also have two directors online, if they would be able to message Scott. We can include their ballots. We will go count the ballots and we will be back with the candidate. Okay, so Director Ranta has been elected as the director for the Municipal Finance Authority. And as Director Thorpe has indicated that she would like to be an alternate through her expression of interest, if she is still interested, we would acclaim her.
Thank you. I would still be interested. Congratulations, John.
Okay, so our next one is the Municipal Insurance Association. And we received interest from Director Stankey, Director Houghton, Director Bass, as well as Director Houghton as an alternate.
I'm going to withdraw my name for both.
So we're, oh,
Yeah, I'd also like to withdraw my name. I'm already representing the village of Clinton. And at the last UBCM, I was able to cancel out my own votes. Because I represented both.
Director Bass has been acclaimed to the Municipal Insurance Association as a director. We will need to fill the role of alternate. Is there anybody interested?
Director Houghton, do you want to let your name stand as alternate for this?
No, I'm on enough committees. That's the reason I backed off. I thought the other folks would be a good choice, but somebody else would like it. That's fine.
Director Blackwell is
Yeah,
winking at me,
I'll
so I
stand
think.
as alternate if that's, I
So-
think I'll be needing to talk to everything insurance over the next year or so. So it would be good to learn what's going on.
So Director Blackwell's letting his name stand as alternate. Anyone else interested?
Director Blackwell is acclaimed as alternate. Congratulations. We now have the Shuswap Watershed Council. So Director Karpuk and Director Lepso have been acclaimed in their position as director. We do need to fill the 2 alternate positions. These do not require a City of Kamloops or Village of Chase membership.
Director Tsao?
Director Tsao?
Yes, I like to put my name forward for alternates. I love the village of Chase so much every time I see the mayor there.
You're a gentleman and a scholar. I'd happily let my name stand for alternate as well.
Is there anybody else interested in becoming an alternate for the Shuswap Watershed Council? Okay, so Director Tsao and Director Newstater are acclaimed alternates for the Shuswap Watershed Council. We do have the Community Energy Association, where we require 1 director and 1 alternate. We have Director Blackwell and Director Bass who have expressed interest in this committee. And we will need an alternate for it as well.
I'll
Yes.
step to alternate. There has been very little activity directly on this committee. So we can give it to Director Bass as the director, and I will step down to alternate if that solves the problem.
Thank you very much. So Director Bass has been acclaimed and Director Blackwell is the alternate for this committee. Thank you. Last but not least is the Kamloops Airport Authority, where we require 1 director and 1 alternate. The expression of interest we received for director are Director Hall, Director Morris, and Director Grenier. Okay, so it looks like we will be having an election. Director Hall could speak via Zoom as well. Director Grenier is not here to speak to his expression of interest.
Director Hall, did you want to ask a question or?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll withdraw my name from the Airport Authority. We've got from the City of Kamloops, we've got good representation there. So I'll remove my name. Thank you.
Okay, so we will proceed with Director Morris, if you would like to speak for 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm not sure you need 2 minutes of listening to me, but in any case, thank you. Yeah, I've served on the Kamloops Airport Authority the last year and a half or two, I suppose. With some success, certainly have some concepts and ideas that we need to build upon in terms of the relationship between the airport authority and what I believe to be the need to reach out to some more of our communities around Kamloops itself and the rural areas, and what sort of initiatives that we can put forward that support growth for Kamloops Airport Authority, but also provide I guess, effective ways for our regional folks to be utilizing this airport as opposed to the escapism to the south. So I would truly enjoy the opportunity to continue in that. Most of you know that in my previous life, I did a lot of airport negotiations, both when I was with Victoria and that airport, as well as my time here in Kamloops. So if there are opportunities there, I think this is one that I might be of value to everybody.
Thank you, Director Morris. We will proceed with the election as Director Grenier isn't here unless Director Elliott would like to speak on his behalf. I'm not really sure.
I know that he has a great interest in the airport, and that's why he's let his name stand. So
Okay.
maybe he would be happy to be the alternate as well. I don't know.
Okay, well, we will distribute the ballots. We will see who the board has appointed, and then we can determine the alternate following this. So the results are in. Oh. Thank you. Director Morris has been elected as director for the Kamloops Airport Authority. As Director Grenier isn't here, I mean, the board has the ability to appoint an alternate if you guys would like to appoint him.
Director, yes.
Is anybody opposed to this? No? Okay. Congratulations, Director Grenier.
All right, so that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now we move on to the fascinating and exciting world of mosquitoes. So 9.1.3 Nicola Valley Mosquito Surveillance and Reduction Program. We have a recommendation. Director Laird, thank you. Vice Chair Smith seconds that. Any questions? On the question then, all those in favor? Anyone opposed?
Aye.
That is carried. 9.1.4 North Thompson Mosquito Surveillance and Reduction Program. Director Tsao is
Yeah,
recusing himself.
Yep.
And we just need to know why.
My alternate director is the owner of the company that's making the bid.
Thank you. The alternate director for Director Tsao is the owner of the company that's put in the bid. So we do have a recommendation. Director O'Toole, seconded by Director Ranta. Thank you. Any discussion on this? On the question, then all those in favor? Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Oop.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Anyone opposed? That is carried. We come to 9.1.5 Recreation Sites and Trails BC. Just a note that we do have, excuse me, a note here that the province has informed us that we cannot have the optional 4-year extension anymore. So the recommendation will be without including the option to renew for 4 additional years in 2030. So if anyone would like to move the recommendation as amended. Thank you, Director Onslow. Director Ranta seconds that. Any discussion? Sure. Director Onslow.
I'd just be curious, does anyone know why the province would not include that? Has something changed policy-wise?
Thanks through the chair. Yes, there was a bit of confusion from staff. Our understanding is that staff on the province's end initially thought that they would allow those extensions, but then later got clarification that they could not provide that extension in the contract. So they could only guarantee the 5-year. So it wasn't any concern about it continuing. It's just what they're legally able to enter into an agreement.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? On the question then, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? That is carried. 9.1.6 Electoral Area Reserve Subsidy Report. Director Laird, I believe you have a motion.
Thank you, Chair. At our EA Directors meeting, we had quite a lengthy discussion around our reserve funds. And I have a motion that was supported by all members of the EA. So that the board directs staff to allocate the remaining reserve balance held within the Community Assistance Reserve Fund specific to each related electoral area service. It's equally over 3 years, 2025 to 2027. And the staff be directed to update the 29 5-year financial plan prior to final adoption in March 2025.
Thank you. Does that, Director Blackwell is going to second that?
No, I'm not.
Oh, no, you're not? Okay. Second,
I have a
alternate
question on
Director
it.
Elliott is seconding that. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Director Blackwell.
Yeah, is this a vote just for EA directors or is this a full board?
As this does impact the entire budget, it would be the board would be voting on this.
Is there a staff member who could perhaps give the Coles Notes elevator pitch version of what this is all about? 10 seconds, starting now.
We have the clicker. Thank you. Can you zoom in on that, please, to the left? Much further over. No. Marnie? All right, it'll be a little bit of hand holding as I tell you. Yes, yeah. So when we brought the provisional budget forward, we brought an increase overall of roughly about 7.6%. The draft budget okay. I apologize. This is impromptu and I've prepped very little. We came to the board with a draft budget. Then we came forward with a provisional budget in which we've reduced from the draft. Then since the provisional budget, and what typically happens is we take in the revised assessment or the completed assessment roll that's given to us. We do a bit of work on our side to analyze year-end results and look where those results are bringing us to. What we're typically doing each year is looking at every service that you want, and we create the budget based on what we've done historically, and if anything has changed, if there's any inflation that we have to take into consideration, and any previously approved increases by the board, and we build that into the budget. So we don't determine a rate that we're going to charge to start with. We determine what the service is going to cost and what that rate calculates into being. That's very important, because if we were doing the other way, we would be forcing costs to be what they are. So when we calculate that rate, we've done a bunch of work since the provisional budget presentation on our side, where we have found surpluses came in higher than anticipated in general services as well as in library services. As you know, we've been talking about the higher interest rates. We did bring in higher interest rate revenue, which did help our general surplus. Overall, what happens with interest is all the reserves that gain that interest will come in, but it gets allocated right away to those reserves. So we don't keep it in an income statement as income. However, when Mr. Krause brought forward some of the challenges we were having with development services, there was a motion there to keep the interest revenue earned on the development services in that budget to help offset some of the losses. What we're suggesting we do coming forward is for solid waste. One of the things that we brought up or came to a conclusion that might be a good thing to do is also keep the interest in the solid waste reserve in that operating budget so that we could offset some of the anticipated lost revenue. So that actually has been able to help decrease the large increase that we're seeing in solid waste. As Mr. Hildebrandt said, some of the things that we've been able to do, which as a staff member is really nice to bring forward, is we found operational efficiencies and we were able to reduce some wages in administration. We were also able to do that in the development services budget. So as you can see, since then, over the last month, we've been able to capture a lot of additional savings and bring those to you. I have to give you that context because that is the information we provided to the EA directors yesterday when we met with that committee. During the provisional budget presentation, the board supported staff bringing a conversation to the EA committee about accessing possible electoral area reserves and helping to offset electoral area tax impacts. So what we have suggested is there was a community assistance reserve, but we were not brought any concerns or suggestions that anyone wanted to look at any of the other reserves. So we didn't get into a discussion, although the list of reserves was provided. We didn't get into any further discussion about any other reserves, just to put that out there. The Community Assistance Reserve was a reserve created through a policy that came to be prior to my time being here, and most of us that were here. The reserve has been sitting there since 2017. There's just over $900,000 in the reserve, and there's various amounts allocated to different electoral areas. That money there is not attached to any project. There are some, and were some thoughts by staff that with the regional park strategy, because it is a parks capital collection reserve that was collected under the recreation function, that might be something that it could be allocated towards. Another suggestion was that there is less of an ability through the Community Works Fund to fund third-party projects. There might be an opportunity there. However, those alternatives were not the ones that were the chosen alternatives. So the electoral area directors, through this motion and agreement, agreed that they would rather see that money that's allocated to each of the EAs given back through that function to their areas, and to distribute the amounts over 3 years. What that's done, and I've done quick calculations, so please, this is a draft. This is not something that I would put out right now. I wanted to give you some context, and I'm reluctant to do this kind of stuff on the fly within a day because there's a lot of numbers here. So it's to the best of my ability over the day to give you guys an idea of what those impacts are, so you have an understanding of the motion that you're being asked to make. So what I did, oh, and I guess I got to move through here. What I've done on the screen, and I wonder, I'm going to come over there. Oh yeah, if I can work it from there. Let's see how good I can be at this, because that's very tiny. Oh, Lord. I'm going to do my best to walk you through this. The most important change I want to point out is, so the top portion is the municipalities, and it just shows the draft, the provisional, the draft final, where I'm kind of at right now is a working number. So we were sitting just over 4% for the municipalities. We had brought that down from the previous provisional. And the draft final, and that's just based on the EA conversation today, stays the same because the decision they made doesn't affect the municipalities. It only affected the electoral areas. So where we were at were these percentages right here for each electoral area. And after the decision to allocate the reserve out over the 3 years, 2025, so what you'll see as Area A, Area E, Area I, Area M have a negative tax rate. So that means overall, what they paid last year is going down. All of the rest are slight increases, but minimal. The other impacts that you're seeing layered in here, so for Area O, and you can kind of see highlights over to the right, what that means is how amounts are distributed for regional taxation. Please remember, so your assessments come in, and I take all the municipalities and all the electoral areas, and I put each of your assessment values, converted assessment values. And then I do a calculation as how much of the total assessment does Kamloops make up? How much of the total assessment does Merritt make up? So based on how your assessments come in, if your overall assessments have grown substantially, Kamloops typically will go down a little bit because you take on more of the pie for the regional costs. That's important to note. And what I would recommend is that it's going to be a lot of information to intake as I'm blabbling it all out to you very quickly. The electoral area directors might be the ones more interested in sitting down with me and just having a quick run through. of how the assessments affected or impacted your taxation at this point. But it will also be part of the budget presentation. I just wasn't planning on doing the budget presentation here for you today. So the important part with this impact is each of the electoral areas is being given a portion of money. Area J had 30,000. Area M had 140 some thousand. So it's all over. It's not equal amounts of money to give back. So over the 3 years, Director Grenier would give back $10,000 a year, which is different than giving back $150,000 a year, right? So it's affecting each area a little bit differently. That's why some of these areas are dipping down into the negative. And the global taxation rate, which of course to some of us is a little bit misleading. All that means is TNRD charged a certain amount of taxation in 1 year. The next year, it's 4% higher. Per service, you could be paying 8%, 6%, 2%. It goes all over because your service doesn't correlate. But overall, on average, the TNRD is going up 4%. So when we presented to you before, we were about 7.6. You can see the rounding numbers just a little higher there. We're about 7.6. We had brought it down for you to here after the decision with the EAs today. It's going down to there. Remember, the year end is not done. These are not final numbers. I'm not saying that we are presenting this right now, but it's going to be close. That was a lot of information. And I'm a little nervous because it's on the fly and I don't want you guys to make an uninformed decision. I want you guys to understand the impact. This is going to be what your decision is made today. I will implement into the final budget that you will receive in March. And it might seem like I have a lot of time between now and then, but I don't have a lot of time in between now and then. So we've got to make some decisions if you want to see some changes. I will turn it back to the chair.
Thank you. Just a reminder, we are not voting on the budget today. We are voting on Director Laird's motion, which is to do with that fund that CFO Fox just showed us, the dispersion of those funds, which is only for the electoral area directors, the different electoral areas. So this is not a vote on the final budget or the full budget in any way. It is therefore not a weighted vote. It is a one person, one vote when it comes to be counted. Director Hall, you have been very patient with your hand up, so you go first, and then I have Director Getz.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Madam
Director
Chair. With this particular motion, I'm just curious because we just heard CFO Fox give us a quick rendition on accounting. And I know it is explicitly for the EAs, but I'm just wondering why this wouldn't have been treated as a notice of motion rather than just a plain motion. It's just a procedural thing in my view.
Thank you. Corporate Officer Jeremiah.
As this was just presented to the Electoral Area Directors Committee yesterday, and in light of the budget presentation in March, we decided that it was probably better to have this introduced at this meeting and for the board to decide upon it. Typically, the notices of motions as well are usually for items that are take a little bit more staff time. So I think it was more just to get an idea and a feel from the board as to how to proceed with this prior to the budget adoption in March.
CAO Hildebrand and then Director Laird.
Thank you. And just to add to that as well is the amount of time that Ms. Fox has to get these calculations done. If we waited until the 20th February, I believe it is, it gives her little time to make that. And this would be a surprise 4 weeks from now. So we wanted to make sure that the awareness is in front of the board. They knew what this was all about because it was new news yesterday with the decision of the EA committee.
Director Laird.
Thank you, Chair. We had quite a lengthy discussion at our EA directors meeting. The reason this community assistant reserve fund was available to look at as being able to return taxes that were collected from our areas was the original policy was disallowed by municipal affairs as being inappropriate. So we looked at what we could possibly do, but the way the policy was originally written and the way we collected the taxes, it was, could only go for a TNRD wide project. And we felt that because of the Municipal Act said that it was an inappropriate collection of tax for the project that we needed to, we felt we needed to return it to the taxpayers where it was taken from. And it was a unanimous vote. We had quite a discussion around the whole aspect of what we can and can't do. But as myself, as an elected official that represents my community, when I see taxes that have been collected and then municipal affairs says it was a tax that wasn't collected properly or didn't have great direction. And the projects that we looked at possibility of shifting our money to, they were not community-wide. There were bits and pieces here and there. So basically, it was really difficult for them to take it back and give it to the taxpayers. And I felt it was the right decision. And we are responsible for the money that's been collected and how we distribute it. And I think that was a fair decision. And I also want to thank CFO Fox for all the time and effort that she's put in. Without the information that she has gathered and provided us, it would have been, we would never, 3 years ago, we wouldn't even know this fund was existing because the way the budget was presented yearly. But when you have the opportunity to see $1 million approximately that was not collected properly, it's good to be able to make sure it goes back to where it came from. So that was the discussion that we had. And the 10 EA directors supported this motion. And I think it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? All right, CFO Fox and then Director Tsao. Director Karpuk, did I see your hand go up? All right, CFO Fox, Director Tsao, Director Karpuk.
Thank you, Chair, through to the board. Just want to make sure everybody has the same information. So the Community Assistance Fund Policy 5.1.6 was repealed by this board June 15th, or in June of 2023. And just the comment from Municipal Affairs was more around that the intent of the policy of the Community Assistance Fund was in contravention of the Local Government Act. So the policy itself was the problem. And if you want to get more information on that, just to refresh your memory, you can go back to that report and it kind of explains it in there.
Director Tsao.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, when CEO's Hildebrand mentioned to us the individual EA's tax implication, and some of us had the negative reduction. Are we each EA choosing how many years to spread it over, or are we standard everybody getting the same 3 years as in the, okay. Okay, okay, thank you. That clarifies. And yes, also for the record, yes, you know, this issue with municipal affairs, it was brought to a Policy and Governance Committee and the board previously, and I acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Karpuk.
Thank you, Chair. I just have I guess a logistics question here. If somebody lived in an EA, contributed to this fund in a form of taxation, no longer lives in that EA, they're not getting their money back. It's the person who bought the property of the person who paid that is what am I correct in this? Because it's not really going to go back to the person who paid it unless they're the same occupant. Yep, so it's just a point you keep saying it's going back to the person who paid it. It's not, it's going to go back to the title of the property that's in the EA's area. Okay, thank you.
Director Newstater.
Thanks, Chair. And forgive me, I feel like I'm going to bumble through this a little bit because this is a lot to take in all at once. Again, I would also question why this isn't a notice of motion. I mean, we're learning a lot of information on the fly. I'm very uncomfortable as a board member making decisions when I don't fully understand what we're voting on. This fund is extremely niche. My guess is that there's been a lot of digging into specific lines of the budget to find it and kind of determine how uses can be found. My question is the Community Assistance Fund Reserve, or at least my first question, who determines what proper use of that fund is? Because to me, this, from my limited information, this seems well outside of the intended use of this fund. So I'm also uncomfortable making a command decision from this board table without actually understanding the intentions of that fund.
I've got CFO Fox and I've got Director Laird, who would like to try and explain this.
I'll make basically what this fund was, it belonged to the EA directors. It was collected in their area. It's not municipal or city collected. It's all been in our EA directors meeting. And we couldn't understand why one area would only have $30,000. Mine was 140,000, and it didn't make sense as why they would all be the same. We did discuss whether or not we could split it amongst the 10 EA directors and have 300,000 a year go back to all 10. But the way it was collected, my area collected $140,000. And like Grenier's area only collected $30,000, and there was no explanation why there was such a spread in it. So basically what we looked at doing was returning it to where the source of the money came to. I don't think it was capable of spreading it equally among all EA directors because we all didn't pay in equally. If it was all, everybody put in $50,000, then we could have done it that way. But the other thing that the EA directors, we don't have the same ability of municipalities of being able to go in and look and adjust their budgets. The only, we can do that just similar, the EAs have the similar opportunity as what municipalities have for adjusting taxes. And that's what we looked at also. We don't have the same opportunity and we don't even have the same tax brackets. I think we have 3, maybe 4 tax brackets where municipalities have numerous different tax brackets to be able to spread the increase of taxes through. So it's quite a different, EA directors have quite a different ability to either collect taxes or give them back.
So just supplemental, thank you, Director Laird.
And sorry, I was just going to ask CFO Fox, I know she had her hand up, and I was going to ask her to explain why the restrictions on this particular fund.
So what I can tell you that I can explain appropriately to the board is that each service has a service area establishment bylaw. That is what gives you the power to collect a taxation, and that is what goes to the province and what is approved. So we had a service establishment bylaw, and under that bylaw, that supersedes anything else that was created underneath it. Why and how the policy that was created underneath it, it actually gave and collected under different authority. It had different rules and guidelines about what they wanted to use the funds for. However, this is where I believe municipal affairs looked and said, okay, having a policy that governs and establishes different guidelines under the service establishment bylaw is not how you do that. It's not appropriate. So from my perspective, the funds were collected under the service establishment bylaw and would have to be treated however the service establishment bylaw was set up and spent the way that service establishment bylaw has laid out. So those are the alternatives that we gave back, is that it was collected under this service establishment bylaw. It was deemed as for Parks Capital and how it was communicated to the public. So it either has to be spent under that bylaw on the Parks Capital, or it needs to be returned back through that service establishment. So it would either have to be used to be spent on what it was intended for, and they also run economic development and the electoral grant and aid through there as well, right? So that's the service establishment where electoral area directors are able to grant money back. And that's where the third party community hall conversation had come in.
Director Newstater?
So supplemental, also very helpful as we're trying to kind of stitch our understanding together here. So should we understand the area directors don't feel they have any capital projects needed within the parks that exist in their areas? I think would be my first question. And my second would be, are there areas in the budget that exist like this where municipalities have dollars collected and area directors do not? Where there are reserves that exist in pockets where municipalities could also decide that we would like to remove those dollars from their intended purposes and apply them to a taxation level instead? It seems like a slippery slope is essentially what I'm saying.
Thank you. I feel like I am usually so prepared, and this is really putting me to the test here. So the functions that the municipality pays into are regional functions. Those are specific, any service establishment bylaw is what lays it out. So any service we have, even if it's regional, other than core services, have the ability to have a reserve. However, all those reserves that we have that involve municipalities are joined with other areas. I do not believe we have a reserve that belongs to one individual municipality.
And I guess secondarily, maybe this is actually a question for EAs, so it's more discussion. I am curious, you have no need for capital project dollars within your parks. I live in a rural area and I have a park that certainly could use some attention. So I'm curious why this has been prioritized instead over the intended uses of that fund.
Director Laird, would you like to tackle that one?
Yeah.
Director Onslow?
I'll see if I can tackle this one. It was unclear what the intention of this policy was and how we could spend that money. So the capital projects that I understand in Area B for our parks, we have a separate fund that we put that money into. This was completely outside of it. No one was even aware that this money was collected, nor did we understand what we could use it for. And so once we started talking with CFO Fox and got a better understanding that this money had been collected in 2017 and there was really no real understanding of for what or how to use it, that's when the decision from the electoral areas to talk about it and to try to understand what projects could we do that were regionally beneficial, et cetera, but outside of my specific park. My park has thousands of dollars that we could put in, hundreds of thousands, but it wasn't able to use that fund from what I can understand. And so in our conversation, that's when we decided that the money that was collected would be returned and the current taxpayers can make the decision on their park enhancements that will come in the future. And they can make that choice and understand what they're choosing to pay for. That's my understanding of it.
Thank you. Director Tsao.
Thank you, Chair. And to further add to Director Onslow's explanation of the lack of vagueness around this fund, we've been talking about, it sounded like it was for parks, but Area A was able to draw for the Vavenby Fire Department. So obviously there's a bit of a confusion, and in light of confusion and the municipal affairs disagreement and all that issue, we felt the safest and fairest and most transparent would be to return it to taxpayer. Yeah.
Also, maybe I should not wade into these very muddy waters indeed, but I've pulled up the Electoral Area Directors Committee report from yesterday, and I understand, first of all, that you had to talk to Agnes to try and see So someone who no longer works here, to see if we could get some clarity on this. That is how vague and muddy and convoluted this whole thing is. Secondly, it says here, the funds fall under the community parks in electoral areas E, I, J, L, M, N, and P. Now, area I is the one with which I'm most familiar. We do not have any community parks in area I. Right? Great. So we have no community parks on which those funds could be spent in area I. In fact, I think A, B, and O are the only three that we really do have community parks in. No? J? J, yes. So most of the electoral areas, or many of them that have these funds set aside for community parks, do not have community parks. So there was discussion at the, yes, it's. So the discussion yesterday at the EA committee, the EA Directors Committee meeting was that, as Director Onslow explained very clearly, we are hoping to develop more parks. If and when those parks are under discussion, the residents who currently live there now will have the opportunity to decide if those parks will go ahead, understanding fully the financial implications that they will be assuming. If they want to take on that tax burden, the park can go ahead. If they say no, then the park won't. So I hope that doesn't muddy things further, but I have no idea. Director Laird.
In my budget, I already have a substantial amount of operating reserve to go to regional parks. We have no regional parks. The only regional that we use, I think, are the buoys that are in the river out here. So there's no regional parks that I'm aware of. We have, most of us do have a community park that we've already funded. I still have $150,000 to build a community park. We've already spent $600,000 on our community park. So there's another, it's very complicated as to what are we going to do with reserves when we don't have anywhere to spend them? And we've collected the money from the taxpayers, and we've been holding this money for I don't know how many years. I feel it's our responsibility to say it's not our money because it wasn't collected properly, and we need to give it back. And that's what we decided to do.
Mr. Vieira.
I need to jump in and provide some clarification, as I think there's a little bit of misinformation going around. So there is a community parks service in every electoral area. There's not necessarily a community park that we own and operate and tax for, but there is an already established community park service. So clarification on Chair Roden's point that if we did establish and the board approved through the budget process, increases to the budget for community parks, that could happen actually without public assent process because those services already exist. And the community, now switching gears back to this fund, it was collected under the umbrella of recreation, and that's why it clarified that we could use it for example, parks, either regional or community. So whether or not there is a park in that location, it's still an opportunity to use the funds towards that purpose at some point in time if the board wishes and supports that. Hopefully I didn't confuse it further, but I feel like I needed to just provide that input.
Thank you. Director Laird, would you be able to read your motion again, please? Would you be able to read your motion again, please, just to remind everyone what it is that we are considering?
That the board directs staff to allocate the remaining reserve balances held within the community assistance reserve funds specific to each related electoral area service I guess it should be refunded equally over 2025 to 2027. And that staff be directed to update the 25-29 5-year financial plan prior to the final adoption in March.
All right, we have that motion duly moved and seconded. Does anyone else have anything they wish to say? Anyone wish to speak to it? A reminder, this is not a weighted vote. This is alternate Director Beppel.
Just in terms of the timeline, and I appreciate that we're talking about this budget cycle. But there's nothing pressing that the decision be made for this budget cycle, in that it could be made for the next budget cycle, and still have the same overall effect, except for the taxation for this year. Is that correct? There's nothing specific to this year that makes the decision tied to this year.
CFO Fox?
Thank you, Chair Roden. I would have to defer to the electoral area directors. It's not a financial requirement for us to do it or bring it forward. It was a direction from the electoral area directors.
Would you like me to make a comment on that? So we all live in our communities and we understand the hardships that everybody is going through. And we have a food bank in Merritt that is asking everybody to give food to. We have a soup kitchen that provides a soup, for anybody that comes in that needs a meal. We have one taxpayer, and we all realize how much everything is more expensive. And I do believe as an elected official, if we have an opportunity to give money back that is not allocated for anything and has been collected, and the way we understand the way that the reserve was built, we can't use it. We can't spread it out among different individual regional areas, regional district, our EA areas, and do individual projects with it, because that's what it wasn't collected for that. So our only obligation is it's money that was collected, and it can't be spent the way it was recommended to do. And I think we deserve to give the money back. It's being responsible and looking after our community and our taxpayers. That's, I don't know how else to explain it. And the 10 EA directors were unanimous in the support of where it was going. And we had all this discussion yesterday. And we all agreed that the money had to be returned, and that's what came from the EA directors meeting.
Thank you. Director Hall.
Thank you. Just a quick question, and you'll have to excuse my ignorance on the topic here, because I'm kind of perplexed, because why are the municipalities even, in a position to place a vote when it's obviously EA money that was collected and now asking to be redistributed back to the taxpayer? It just seems to me, and maybe I'm missing something, it just seems odd that the municipalities would have a vote in a say in something like this, unless I'm missing something and need a clarification.
Thank you. CAO Hildebrand?
I'll get corporate officer to also maybe to jump in if she has some information, but the board makes all the financial decisions, as we all know. And so to Director Hall's comment, although this is, I guess, collected and it's a service within the EA director group, everything, no matter what happens in an EA committee or an invasive plan committee, it all comes back to this board for decision. And I apologize for the lack of institutional knowledge on this one. This is back from 2017 that we don't have that information on exactly how this worked. The policy was the problem. The way it was collected was not, taxation wasn't collected improperly. It's the policy and what we wanted to do with that money that was incorrect. And that's why it was rescinded. And it was rescinded with this board in 2023. And we kind of walked through those details. That's always been in our budget. We're providing full transparency. Nothing's ever been hidden. We just need to make a decision, because it's one of those odd things that the provincial government decided to pull back on and make us change that. It's been sitting there in a reserve. Now the EA committees have chosen to make a decision on that one, and it comes back to this board for the final decision.
Thank you. And I'll just say that, I was at the meeting yesterday. Yes, it was unanimous. The EA directors have decided that this is what they want to do with funds that belong to the 10 electoral areas. Personally, I think that needs to be respected. And I will just also read out from the report that was at the committee meeting yesterday. As we all know, reserves have been a subject of much discussion. Can they be utilized to reserve taxation? Staff, CFO Fox and her staff have done a wonderful job of identifying areas where they are comfortable and feel that we can use reserve funds. They did in this report say that there is one other area of reserve funding that staff would be comfortable considering, and that was the one that is under discussion today. So staff, it's not only the electoral area directors who of course carry the weight, but it is staff as well who are saying that they would be comfortable, or that this is a reserve that they have identified that could be used to do what the directors want to do, which is reduce the taxation burden. So just for what that's worth to anyone. And so with that, I'm going to give myself the last word and call the question. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. That is carried. We move on to the much less interesting and exciting building permit activity, which is for information only, but does anyone have any questions or comments on the building permit activity? All right, we move on to 10.1. We have the Policy and Governance Committee. And we do have two recommendations coming out of the Policy and Governance Committee. Director Ranta, thank you. Seconded by Vice Chair Smith. Any discussion on the reserve management policy? All those in favor? Move to. I'm just waiting for the
Aye.
gentleman online. Hear your dulcet tones there. I've only heard one. Speak up, Director Hall.
Already did.
Okay, speak up, Director Kershaw, unless you're opposed. All those.
Yay,
opposed.
sorry. Yeah, missed that there. Good.
Okay. That is carried. We have Director Ranta, thank you. Second by Director O'Toole. Questions, comments on surplus management policy? All those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. We have two recommendations coming out of the Utility Systems Committee. Move one, Director Smith, seconded by Director Morris. Any question on the Paul Lake Waterworks utility system? No. On the question, all those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. Item 10.3, we have the Governance and Boundary Review Committee meeting. We have two recommendations. Director Thorpe moved, seconded by Director O'Toole. Thank you. Discussion. All those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? Carried. And recommendation 2. Move to Director Sarai, seconded by Director Thorpe. Discussion. Anyone opposed? Or anyone, all those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Opposed? Carried. All right, we move on to correspondence. We have action requested Nicola Valley Fall Fair Association.
I move support of the letter. Or is it
You
just?
move,
auto-
Director
move-
Laird is making a motion that we provide a letter of support. That is being seconded by Director Houghton. Does anyone have any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Second action item, Savona drainage infrastructure, and we have, I believe Mr. Vieira has something that he'd like to say on this. Hello? Alternate Director Elliott has something she'd like to say on this.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I think the letter is quite explanatory, but the people that have been trying to put together a cohesive group with MOTI and the CP and our staff. And our staff has made some progress. And I would like to make a motion that this refer back to the staff. I think Jamie's got some information about it and that it proceed from to help these folks. They're not asking for money. They're just asking for help in support. Yes.
So you're making a motion that staff continue to meet with residents and the affected parties?
Yes.
Okay, does that have a seconder?
Second.
Director Ranta, thank you. Mr. Vieira?
Yes, I can speak to that. Thank you, Director Elliott. Yeah, so we've been doing some background research on this with Moti recently. Obviously, we're well aware and been working with the community. So what I would recommend from a staff perspective as next steps is that we can facilitate a meeting with Moti, and I've reached out to Moti staff. They are willing to do this with the specific property owners named in the letter to talk through all the issues, because I think as a starting point, there's misunderstanding on both sides of what is Moti's responsibility and what's not, and we can facilitate that and speak from our point of view in terms of what ability we as the TNRD have to do to provide assistance. So that's what I would recommend from a staff perspective as the next step, that we'd be happy to set up that meeting, and I've got confirmation from Moti staff that they would participate in that as well.
Does alternate Director Elliott's motion give you the leeway to do what you feel needs to be done?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Director Houghton?
Yeah, the local business in town whose daughter and son-in-law live in one of these impacted properties. It's right across from the Super Save gas station on the frontage road. It was one of the culverts that was plugged at the time during last year's flash flood. And I believe it's still plugged. The business I was at last couple of times said it still hasn't been cleaned, and I have talked to Director Grenier about it, but it's something that, you know, that should be looked at. It's directly across on the frontage road from Super Save.
Alternate Director Elliott?
This letter is not speaking to that particular part of the road. This is discussing the piece that goes down along by the beach. Okay, so it goes down the access road and straight down Buey Street. And at the end of Buey Street, there's a CP, the tunnel, I don't know what you call it. It's a tunnel that is used to go back and forth. Actually, the bikers use it quite a bit. And it was blocked off. So when the whole area came flooding down through there, that whole street ended up, because water goes to its lowest point, took out a lot of those houses and all that stuff. The upper area, what you're talking about, was because of the flash that come across Watson Drive. It didn't get as far as the beach. So what these folks are asking for is that they get somewhere from that tunnel, that drainage ditch that goes along and heads towards the beach or towards the lake.
Any other questions or comments? Director Houghton?
If you're talking to Moti, Jamie, maybe mention that culvert in your discussion. So it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Yeah, we could definitely bring that up, but I will just provide the update that confirmation that Moti staff gave me yesterday is that all the repair work to their existing infrastructure has been done. So all the culverts that were plugged have been restored and repaired. So that's the update as of yesterday. Everything is completed. Does that mean all the drainage is perfect and there's no further risk. No, I'm not saying that, but everything's been restored and the plugged drainage systems have all been fixed.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. We have 3 items for information. Does anyone have any questions or comments on any of those items? No? New business, Director Onslow?
Thank you very much. I'm bringing this new business forward because I have a little bit of a concern and I'm asking for help from the board regarding the discretionary funds. And recently, the policy for discretionary funds was changed to allow a maximum of $5,000 annually to a nonprofit organization. And that does not work in our small community because we have the Blue River Community Association who does everything, every single thing. There are actually a few others, but the majority is the community association. And so I have a motion that I'm going to ask that we allow up to the maximum, which is the 13,500 for 2024, as well as for 2025. And then obviously this would come again in the future, probably for 2 years in a row, but it's a way of, I guess, asking permission to give this valuable organization more than $5,000 annually to continue to benefit the community. Okay, so I'll read it out. That the board approve an exemption to electoral area grant and aid policy number 5.1.4 to increase the Blue River Community Association's maximum allowable grant to 13,500 for each year of 2024 and 2025.
Moved and seconded. Does anyone have any questions for Director Onslow? All those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. Any other new business? Director Tsao?
Thank you, Chair. Just sharing some knowledge I came across at a political event in Prince George a week ago. Our government in power, there was 3 ministers at the event, and they were talking to a supporter from the Ministry of there's Walrus was there, forestry, as well as mining and critical minerals. Just to share that the trend coming, it seems that they're telling supporters that we're fast tracking everything related to resource, the sector, trying to replace some of the forestry jobs with mining. So perhaps we can all keep that in mind when they say fast track, that our constituents, concerns are addressed. So yeah, just a heads up.
Thank you. Anyone else with new business? Any notices of motion? All right, we have question period. Questions from the public. No one online? All right, I am going to move that we go into we go into a closed meeting and that the meeting be closed under Community Charter sections 90.1K. Negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that, in the view of the council or board, could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the board, the regional district, if they were held in public, and N, the consideration of whether a board meeting should be closed under a provision of this subsection or subsection 2. Thank you, Director Ranta. All those in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Anyone opposed? We will be moving into closed, and the gentleman online, I believe you have instructions on how to dial in for the closed meeting.
I have a link here. Yep.
Yay.
There is a break.